Welcome to Still Serving, the VFW podcast, the official podcast of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And now, from the VFW Memorial Building in Washington, D.C., here's your host, Rob Couture.
And welcome to Still Serving. I'm your host, Rob Couture, and let's go off with roll call. Joining me in the studio, Gabby Kubinyi, who is our grassroots advocate director, associate director for National Legislative Service. I said that with a question mark, but I know that to be true. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm glad that you are here, Gabby. Talk about a lot of things, and we'll get to that. Next to her is our deputy director, acting director, actually, in the set of our director, Nancy Springer. Nancy, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Well, I should say for National Legislative Service, but you have been on a roll. A lot of testimonies. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that, especially the one that you held today, or you testified today. And then joining us also back from overseas, Ryan Gallucci, our executive director of the Washington office. Ryan, how you doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah.
Great to be back. Glad to be back.
Good.
Still recovering from the jet lag and shoveling blocks of ice.
Oh, yeah. We were
like everyone else.
Definitely in an ice box. And I'm happy to bring back Brittany Dymond Murray. Hi, Brittany. How are you?
I'm great. I'm way better than I was last time a podcast.
Ooh, I don't even know if that might be a good of the order, like public service announcement.
I'm actually going to do, yes, that's my plan, public service announcement.
Oh, man.
For the good of everyone in general.
Yeah.
So stand by.
Yeah, good. All right, so we have a lot to talk about today, as I kind of alluded to. Ryan, if you want to grab the board and go off.
Okay, here we go. It's back in my handwriting this time.
It is.
All right, so
easier to read.
Last time we spent like an hour and a half talking about the Major Richard Starr Act. We talked about some things we were going to do, so we're going to provide a quick update there on what's happened since our last podcast. There's been some momentum and some things we want to share, so we'll talk about the Starr Act. Same thing. Last time we talked a little bit about claim sharks and what happened over the holiday break, and even in the last 2 weeks since we last spoke, there has been even more progress, so we're going to give an update there. Really excited that Gabby's here because we didn't have a chance to talk about the SVA National Conference where Gabby was helping to represent the VFW, but also where our VFW SVA legislative fellows got together as their experience and their fellowship marches forward. So excited to talk about that. Then, of course, Nancy is joining us fresh from a hearing before the House Veterans Affairs Subcommittee.
Still dressed up.
Yeah,
still dressed up.
Quarter zip.
Yeah, the quarter zip. You got to get in that quarter zip drip. That is the style. That is the trend. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay. We don't have matcha. So.
Yeah, right. We don't have matcha.
Matcha next time for the quarter zips. But Nancy will be talking about her hearing before the Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs Subcommittee. I will talk a little bit about the overseas visits that the Commander-in-Chief and I just concluded with service members overseas and comrades who help support them. And then, as always, the good of the order.
The good of the order, yes. And we have I don't have any specific topics, although Gabby and I kind of talked through one just a moment ago. So we'll get to that at the end of the show because it was heated. And I loved it. It was perfect. But let's start off with the Starr Act. So between you two and the brain trust over in National Legislative Service and what you all have been working on the Starr Act, what is the latest and greatest? Who wants to go first?
Why don't you tell us about the action alerts? That's most significant, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we teased those on the last episode.
Yeah.
So we have them. It's live. You should go to our webpage and make sure you take action and have your voices heard. But we took a little bit of a different way of looking at this, right? Because we've looked at this Major Richard Starr Act and where is it? What are we trying to do? How do we get this across the line? So we thought we're going to take a different view and have 3 different messages that advocates are able to send. So we have 3 different groups. The first one is any member of Congress who has already co-sponsored the bill. So we've sent them a message. It'll say, thank you so much for co-sponsoring. We appreciate your support. Now it would be really great if you could be publicly vocal about your support, as well as talk to your friends on the Hill and on Haskin Saskin. Let's get a hearing going. This bill needs to be talked about in the light of day. We need to have subject matter experts be in front of Congress, have Congress, tell us why maybe they're not loving this and don't want it to get across the finish line so that we can meet them and in the middle. And then our second message is to any member of Congress who has not already co-sponsored, of which there are not tons of them. That's great. But they're getting the message, please co-sponsor. And then our third group are all the members who are on the House and the Senate Armed Services Committees, because that is where this bill is being heard, in the committees on armed services. So we need to apply pressure to those members of Congress. They're the ones that can request a hearing on this bill and make sure that it is heard in public for everyone who is interested and invested in this, to make sure that we all know what's going on, because this affects a lot of Americans. This is legislation. This should be public, and it should be out in the open for the public to know what's going on.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Gabby, that's a very unique approach to these action alerts with three parts. And I took the action alert, and my 2 senators and my congressman are supporters of Richard Starr.
Yes.
So I got that message back in return. So very, very unique, and it allows everybody to do something tailored to what that person's already done.
Exactly.
I think that's great. But actually pushing for a hearing for this concept is key, because it never has had one. And if it doesn't get a hearing, nobody can debate it. Nobody can offer an amendment to make it better. It just sits dormant.
It dies.
That's where it is.
And that's kind of what's happened. I mean, there was a markup in a previous Congress, and the Armed Services Committee discharged it, but then it died. Then it was killed behind closed doors.
Right.
There's never been comprehensive public debate.
Right.
And that's what our action alert will allow you, as the public, as a member of America, right? Yeah. A citizen, and somebody who lives here, who is represented by the people across the street, to have your voice heard in a specific way that will hopefully affect what they do next.
So the last time we were together on the podcast, we talked that these action alerts were about to come out. What have we seen so far as results?
Over 15,000 messages have been sent to Congress asking for these 3 messages.
Fantastic.
That is tons and tons.
And how many members of Congress are there?
There's 535.
Oh, wow. And so to be clear, that's just the people that are on the House and Senate Armed Services Committee, correct? And then also the other ones that you have to encourage them.
Yes.
So that's not even the full 500.
And we probably have hit all 500 offices.
Wow.
Yeah.
My guess is with 15,000 messages, every congressional office has received at least one email.
Well, see,
on this.
now this is action.
Yes.
And I love it. I think that's great. Let's go over this so people know, why are they so reluctant to have a hearing, to go forward and pass this bill? What are your thoughts?
Money?
Yes.
You just think it's money?
Cost.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
money.
Cost.
And that's what they tell you?
Yes, it is. Cost too much. And we don't have an offset for the cost. That's the other major point. Yes.
Wow.
Everybody seems to be supportive of the concept. They all say, well, we understand, we support this, but how are we going to pay for this? Where's what they call the pay-go? Where's the offset for this bill?
Yeah.
See, I think some people are hiding behind that.
I do too.
I think
so too.
that there are
Way out.
Yeah, I think there's some deep held convictions that, oh well, if we allow for this, then how far are veterans going to go? We've heard some of those grumblings that, well, isn't it the same benefit that they get for disability? But it's not. I mean,
Right.
Not at all.
It is two different benefits from two different departments for two different reasons.
Absolutely.
That is not double dipping.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But right now, the pays offset each other unless you're in certain categories.
Well, look, I think that there's certain members of Congress that don't even like one pay from the government to a single person, let alone two.
Oh, yeah, true.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, there is that, but I just think, we had talked about this in the last podcast, and it just drove me crazy when I started thinking about it. Is like I said, in the 90s, in the early 90s, and they were doing these early retirements, and like, oh, well,
Yes.
it's forced reduction.
They're in
and there was the
too.
money
Yeah.
then,
This
right?
too.
Yeah.
There was that money then, but
they're-
when somebody is medically retired, oh, hold on now. Well, wait a minute.
Well, there's
It's
a
interesting you bring that up, though,
Yeah.
Rob, because that's another category of concurrent receipt. Because those people that took those early buyouts 35 years ago now and then subsequently filed a claim, a VA disability claim, if they're getting VA disability compensation, that's now offsetting that pay. They
Yes,
have to
it
pay
is.
back that 5-figured buyout.
That's so crazy.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
which they were taxed on at the time.
35
So they
years
end up owing more money back to the government than they took home.
Oh,
So, you received a $15,000 severance. You were taxed on that.
Yes.
You took home what? 10?
yeah.
You owe the government the full 15.
And you did that to help the force shape itself. After
That's right.
After the
Shaping
Soviets
the
fell.
force.
After the Soviets fell. Yes.
Yeah.
Post Desert Storm.
Yep.
Post Soviet Union.
That's right.
Breaking apart. Yes. So people took this all these years ago. And I had somebody call me. He was upset. He said, "But that was 30 years ago." I said, "Nobody forgot."
Right.
And those are the rules.
No, DFAS didn't
Yeah,
forget.
those are rules. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And there was some of that right after the PACT Act. So there were people who had filed a VA claim. They hadn't filed one in a very long time. And there were examples where VA was finding those debts
Yes.
of separation bonuses.
I remember us talking about that.
Yeah, there were a
these are-
couple
these are
news
connected,
stories
yes.
about it. Now, look, when we train our accredited reps, we train into them to tell their clients, hey, if you took one of these, you are going to have to pay it back. It's not right. It's another example of what Congress has determined for some reason is a concurrent receipt or double dipping.
right.
Which makes this conversation harder with the Hill because, Gabby, this started with Axe the widow's tax, which was another example of what Congress considered concurrent receipt or double dipping. And the idea for the STAR Act came out of that success, which I think scared some people across the street.
Yes, it did. Because we were successful. But that only cost 1%. It cost half of 1% of what the Military Retirement Trust Fund earns in interest. Half of 1% of the interest. Not the principal, the interest.
Wow, that's crazy. It's
a really
wait a
important
minute.
point.
So this
Very
interest that
important
builds
point.
up, where is it? What happens to it? Who knows?
It's
I mean,
No,
the
it's
Military
not-
Retirement
no.
Trust
I
Fund
don't
is
think
it's a series of money moving. So that's what the fund is. It's just money moving in and out and
Yeah.
interest growing. And that fund has laws attached to it of
Right.
what it's supposed to be used for.
Right.
And that was what we used during the widow tax to say you do have the money to pay for this. It only cost half of 1% of the
Right.
interest. And that's a really hard argument for Congress to say we don't have the money to do that anymore.
Well, it's easy if they don't have a hearing.
Yes.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
They can have a hearing on this topic.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
Military Retirement Fund and or about topic of concurrent receipt and get the questions on the table. Let the members ask those questions. We can respond to them
Yeah.
either as witnesses or through our statements for record and get it on the table.
Brittany, you were saying something.
it's just military retirement fund. It's kind of it's a complex fund, and it's a lot of. I think there are a lot of. Well, I know. I don't think I know. There are a lot of lawmakers who have said to me in the past, and the same group that now Joy, she was on the podcast and the last one. We go around in groups to these meetings with lawmakers, and they're like, well, what's to it's a slippery slope argument. Well, what's to stop us from reaching into it for this or that or the other thing? It's like, well, no, this money is here for a reason. That's why it's here, to pay service members their retirements that they're due. And so to me, that argument doesn't hold any weight at all.
Thinking
now
back
the
to my
retirement
intro to
fund,
logic class, slippery slope is a fallacy. So
Right.
I hate that people use it so much here on the Hill.
it's really frustrating. Now, I think that they do have some standing and concern about the fund. I think it's kind of complex if you go read like Congressional Research Service papers on the fund itself and how it's funded. As Gabby mentioned, the funding streams that come into it, like there's the Treasury's involved, DOD's involved. Of course, there's a revenue stream that comes in. So it is difficult it is a bit difficult to understand if you're, of course, not the people who are managing the fund on a day-to-day basis, but that is indeed what it's for. And so, I mean,
Not as difficult.
It's just
as
the right
somebody
thing to
who
do,
was
period.
Being medically retired.
Yeah, great
Yeah.
point. I mean, okay, so it's probably important for us if we're here talking about it. Probably important for us to talk about this military fund, which was established to pay out for the retirements, right? So it pays out for federal and veteran. It's the payouts for benefits. So this includes. I just read the paper. So I feel smart, but yeah, it was actually the report. But it is for federal employee benefits and also those that are like those that are getting like medical retirement. That's part of that, and then also some of the healthcare benefits that come along with it. So the DoD every fiscal year pays into this fund. The Treasury Department also pays in this fund, which basically, and they're on the hook for the concurrent receipt, right, of that. So that's the Treasury Department. And then there's like the payouts from that fund to the people. But what's never mentioned is this interest that builds up in the fund that it just continues to collect and collect and collect. And where does it go to? And why is that not accounted for? And so... really interesting. Probably way more, and we'll probably get into a lot of that later on, but I know this was like discovered back 6-7 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, it's not a new new concept at all.
Yeah, not a new concept at all. So really interesting. It's available online. You can actually go online and find the quarterly report. Not quarterly. It's like every 4 years that this report that is made public goes out.
Quadrennial?
Yeah, quadrennial. Very good. Thank you. Report that comes out.
Thanks, everybody.
It's that University of Rhode Island degree that you got going on there. Okay, but we need to move on. So that's a great update. Anything more that we need to talk about moving forward? Just continue to look for the action alerts?
Look for the action alert. It's living. We'll change it. We'll update it as there's new milestones we want to reach. Once we've accomplished, we get the hearing, you'll see new asks coming on board. So just keep going to our action center. Make sure that you're telling your friends, your family, other veterans. You don't have to be a veteran to do the action alert. You don't have to be a VFW member to do the action alert. You just need to have a U.S. address.
That's great.
Well, one more shameless plug. This is also one of the priorities that we're bringing around Capitol Hill in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We got WashCon coming up. The
WashCon 26.
Washington Conference. So really excited for that. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, we are going into some new news about claim sharks. Right, Ryan?
Into uncharted water.
Oh, man.
See what you did there, Ryan.
Yeah, we see what you did there. Thanks, Brittany. And I was hoping somebody would say it. All right, Ryan, what do you got?
All right. So the last time we were together, we talked about, some of the momentum that we were seeing on claim sharks. And in just a couple of short weeks, we've seen some major things break. First of all, out of Texas was a $6.8 million settlement from VA Claims Insider. And settled by the state of Texas. It's basically 9 years of debt relief for people who were charged misleading fees through VA Claims Insider. And what's crazy, you can read the press release from Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton that talks about exactly what they were looking at. And some of this is so familiar because we see it with most of the major claim sharks, where what got them in trouble was they advertised free consultation, and then they misrepresented their relationship with medical providers. Like, come on. This is the roadmap of how these companies operate and the subject of a lot of other lawsuits around the country, to include the one in North Carolina against another major claim shark. But to see the scope of this debt relief, but then also not just the 9 years of relief, but then basically having to change their business practices to be more transparent
Yeah.
I mean, in what they can and can't do, what they are allowed to do under the law and what they're not allowed to do. So really an important case out of Texas. Again, $6.8 million in debt relief for people who had debt collections for the last 9 years.
Oh, man.
The other one is also a law that's headed to the governor's desk in California, which is State Senate Bill 694 by Senator Bob Archuleta. And it's been championed by the state attorney general. And the state attorney general also wrote a great press release. You should check it out. But again, it makes me very proud of the work we've done in the VFW. Because again, we coined the term claim sharks.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah. VFW magazine, check it out. Back in 2021, I think it was, with a little cartoon shark, which we'll get to in a second. I'll let you talk about that one, Rob. That claim shark update.
Yeah.
But really, what this law will do is basically restrict actors in the state of California to only charging what's allowed for agents and attorneys. Basically, upholding current law, adhering to current law. Now, of course, all the usual op-eds are circulating in California, but they're really echoing hollow. It's kind of like the copy and paste model that we've seen in some California press saying, well, you're restricting options. You're restricting, the right for these companies to do business, and VSOs are overwhelmed and overworked and all the old tired tropes. The good news is these have been published like weekly since September, and they're gaining no momentum.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, okay, we know it's not true. We can see it's not true.
Yeah.
And the funny part of that is, we were talking about it yesterday on our directors meeting about some of these tropes with claim sharks. And Chris Masinkowitz, our deputy director of NVS, he basically said, yeah, our work has doubled in the last 10 years. So this whole notion that some of these companies are out there saying no one uses VSOs, no one wants to work with VSOs anymore, that's older veterans. Like, we got our numbers, and we've talked about them here on the podcast, that about half of the veterans that the VFW represents are post 9/11. And also just our program alone since 2016 has doubled the number of veterans that it serves.
Wow. It's since 2016, you say?
Yeah, actually, it's probably 2015 or 2014. But some of the years are starting to blend together.
Yes.
Nevertheless, it's doubled in recent years. So really it looks like good momentum. I know it takes a while. And we had asked a few years ago, talking to Congress, it's like, look, they're breaking a lot of laws. They're not just breaking the law that you can't charge for claims assistance.
Yes.
We need the courts to speak on this, and the courts are starting to speak. And it looks like we're probably right.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we had been talking about this. We made spots about it. We've
and now a special message from the VFW Washington.
That's right, the Washington office spot.
Rob, I randomly quote that video still.
Do you really?
Around. I do. Like, I was just doing it the other day.
Joe Grassi drinking the coffee.
I knew that. Yeah, with the coffee pot in the background, like, it's priceless.
Yeah.
It's when I saw the video that we recently posted, I was at the kitchen table and I was like, and now from the How
one of my
not,
one of my first voiceover jobs here in the VFW.
Well,
it was like right before the holidays.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one.
Oh, it was the holiday message.
Yeah, that was the holiday.
It was the holiday message.
Yeah, that was great. Oh, Pat Murray. Tell me you said hello, would you, Brittany?
I will. I definitely will.
Love it.
But, we took kind of the sense of it back then that, it's a very serious issue. Veterans are being harmed by these companies, but at the same time, what they're selling is so absurd. And sometimes you just got to go after it with the Bugs Bunny style humor.
That's right.
Like, tying up the shotgun.
Sure.
When they stick it in the rabbit hole. And so poking fun at how absurd these companies are.
Yeah.
And so we did a little bit of that again this week.
We did a little bit of that. Brittany, I'm going to throw it over you. Do you happen to have the VFW's new spot?
I do. Can we? I'm assuming we're about to watch it. Let's do it.
Sure, why not? If you're ready to play,
Okay.
Let's do it. All right.
How do I file a VA claim?
Kip Sharkington, let me handle that form for you. For an exciting fee package, I offer a basic fee, a premium fee, a super premium fee, and the exclusive Because I Said So fee, TM. As you can see, they are all so transparent. Have you considered paying me for that free form?
Why would I pay you? Accredited VSOs like the VFW help for free.
Free as in zero? What about my surcharges, my processing fees, my just thinking about your claim fee? No, people love paying fees. It's part of the experience, right? It's all about choice, right?
Or I could get free help from the VFW.
You're ruining my business model. No, my Ascot budget.
To get free assistance with your VA claim and avoid claim sharks like Kip Sharkington, visit claims.vfw.org.
Yay. Thanks, Brittany. That was Kip Sharkington.
So good.
Welcome to the fight, Kip.
Yeah. Way to go, chum.
See, we should have been wearing ascot.
Oh, man, that would be it. That's the next
Why
level.
didn't we show up today with ascots? That was a real miss on our part.
Yeah, I could have thought that one through. I didn't.
Well, we don't have the ascot budget that Kip Sharkington has.
If we had
don't.
it.
If we had the Because I Said So fee,
Maybe we need to. I think maybe what we need to do is with some of that kilt material, we put some VFW plaid ascots.
tartan ascot.
Tartan ascots.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
Do you think it's too late? Do you think it's too late to amend our order?
I don't know. We would have
Can
to
we
get
ask
with.
them to make ascots?
Yeah, we would talk to the quartermaster general about ascots and add that to the budget, so we have
All right.
some of our own ascot budget. All right. Okay.
right,
So
keep that in mind.
there you go. More to follow on Claim Sharks as this just keeps rolling. It's great.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I also loved the video because it hints at so much to like what you can and can't charge for. And it's always, I mean, ever since the first hearing in 2022, we said, look, these companies are charging for work that not only can accredited representatives do for free and have to do for free under the law, but they're also charging for work that VA is obligated to do, like getting your healthcare records, ordering exams. Those are all things that the American taxpayer pays for, and VA has a statutory obligation to do. I don't understand how a company can be like, well, just pay me for the government to go do all the work.
Yeah, real interesting. And I'm sure that as you keep going, that more eyes will be opened and you'll be able to stay away from the clutches of those like Kip Sharkington. So what do we have next on the agenda there, Ryan?
All right. We went through. I'm going to consult the old whiteboard.
The board.
Next on our list, the VFW SVA Legislative Fellowship,
Yay.
which is in its, I don't know. It's,
11th year?
thank you.
Yeah, over a decade.
Yes.
Pretty
For
awesome.
more
stuff.
than a decade.
For more than a decade.
Wow.
Yes.
Crazy.
And
So,
we have a great group of fellows this year.
okay.
We have Shadiq Anderson from California, Kimmy Kim from California, Juanita Garcia from Washington State, Juan Carlo Gonzalez from Florida, Sarah Lively from Nebraska, and Austin Lawrence from Massachusetts. And they have something new this year that we've never done before.
Okay.
They actually have an action alert live right now for their legislative priority, which is HR 1965, the Veteran Education Adjustment Act, which would change the book stipend from where it is currently at $1,000 a year, and it would adjust it up to $1,400 a year and tie it to inflation so we don't have to come back and do this again.
Kind of a little bit of an oversight from the earliest days of the post 9/11 GI Bill, wasn't it?
But we can fix it now, right?
We can fix it.
We can fix it now. And the fellows have been doing an awesome job. The part I love the most as the grassroots person is that almost half of all of the people who have taken action on that action alert are brand new advocates.
All right.
So we're reaching more people. And since we were in Colorado for SVA's national convention, they had it on their phone, ready to go. They were talking to all the student veterans, and they even asked for next year's class if they could have more time possibly at our table so that they really could talk to more student veterans to get the message out about their action alert.
Really?
Good,
Yeah.
That's great.
They are doing a great job.
So it's exciting to watch how this program has evolved since its earliest days.
Yes.
I mean, in the very beginning, it was write an essay, come to D.C. and walk the halls of Congress with the VFW, but really built it out into something that's not just an academic experience, but then brings those new advocates forward. Like when you're saying that half of the people who have used that action alert are new advocates for the VFW for the first time, that's what we were shooting for.
Yes.
Injecting new ideas and bringing new advocates to the table to fight for veterans.
Yes. And for what's going on now, right? Because it changes as every generation rolls through. We need this generation to be loud about what they need as student veterans, and they're doing a great job.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of it is with the post 9/11 veteran, right? Includes me, includes you, Ryan, includes you, Brittany. Is that
Doesn't include me.
Well,
Does not include me.
but nevertheless,
Sorry.
But nevertheless,
Because I'm pre and post.
yeah. But nevertheless, the thing is, I think it's as I look in the as we go through it. But if you look through the history, each generation came back in which they wanted to have a voice and say something, and the older generation was like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So then they get, it's amazing because we thought that about, it's very obvious with the Vietnam veteran. They experienced that from the World War II veteran. GWAT veterans experience it from the older ones. But I was looking at, anybody know Bill Malden? Anybody know who Bill Malden
I know
is?
the
The cartoonist?
The cartoonist from World War II. So I have a few of his books, and I was happening to flip through the books, and I found this one cartoon that he drew. And in the doorway is a World War II veteran who just came back, and this group of older veterans are sitting down, and they're like, "Hey, you don't need to be here. There's like big boy business going on." And it's so interesting how even the greatest generation had faced that when they came home.
Yeah.
But you want to be able to be able to articulate, be able to express and advocate the things that you feel strongly about that have been you've been stewing on, for your entire time of service. And it's great to be able to be in a space where you can do that. So to see them being so activated and being excited to have their own action alert. Hopefully this is something that goes on with every iteration of our fellowships.
And we've had some great fellows before who have moved to DC, who have gotten deeper and deeper into legislation and policy, and it comes from school. That's how I got here. It was school that landed me here. So working with the student veterans is awesome, and they really are taking it and running with it. And it is, the other thing that's really great is how it can work with VFW posts, because we have a grant Posts can apply to get a grant specifically to be able to do stuff for the student veterans wherever they're around them. And that exists. You can go on our website and find out more information about that, because that is how we bring in the new generations into this organization and give them a voice. And what we talked about in training with grassroots advocacy is once we get to a point where we know what we're doing, it is really important to always turn around and reach our hands out and make sure we're bringing the next generation with us, because this is a constant. We're never going to have to stop being here advocating for benefits. We are going to have to do this forever. So we need to make sure that we are getting those new faces and new voices involved. And that's what this fellowship does.
That's awesome.
You know, Gabby, I love that you just mentioned that. Bob Jackson, totally miss Bob Jackson. But he used to say all the time in our office that, you know, we often in the VFW Washington office, this is true of all advocates, but we often don't have wins ourselves, so to speak. The wins happen over the course of generations of advocates. And they often add up, there's small wins over time that add up to the really big wins, like the PACT Act, for example. And it's so critical for us to ensure that we're bringing people with us as we advocate, and ensuring that they have the tools and the knowledge to pick up the baton, if you will, to keep carrying the message forward, to keep pushing the advocacy for the big issues that we all care about so much that need to get done. And if we're not sharing our platform with people to ensure that, you know, their messages are able to be heard, and if we're not, you know, if we're not bringing people with us, then we're, in my opinion, we're kind of failing. We're failing the next generation if we're not bringing them with us. So that is one of the big reasons why I love that program. And you mentioned we've had fellows that have moved to DC or are doing this now. And we had Jennifer Ross on the podcast several months back. I think it was when we announced this most recent class of fellows and the applications were opening. And, you know, she is now full-time with one of the big advocacy organizations here in DC advocating for veterans. So a lot of them continue to do amazing work. And that's really inspiring.
I mean, we talk about Tammy Bartlett, too, who's now the Vice President of Government Affairs at Student Veterans of America.
She sure is.
Exactly right.
Came through our fellowship program.
I mean, look, I'm not getting any younger. I'm 51, going to be 52. And, you know, all of us, and I thought I was young for a long time. You know, now I may go around to some other VFW post and I still be young.
All right, son.
Yeah.
That is true.
That is true, right, Nancy?
Yep.
But I mean, but that's the thing. This is something that you should be. This why we bring these young people that are coming straight out of service or that are in service and talking to them about, like, hey, one day when you get out, you can be in now and still have a voice, you know? And so getting them under our wing and helping them to learn, because you're absolutely right, Gabby. If we don't look back and grab those other folks and bring them along with us, then how are they going to know to advocate?
Right.
You know, it's like people, like you were talking about Bob Jackson. I think of Bob Wallace, who was here for so long. And if it wasn't for guys like that were just, you know, institutions themselves and saying, and passing the torch to Ryan, you know what I mean? You're like, where's this torch? That's the torch of freedom.
The torch of freedom.
Yeah, right. It's the torch of freedom. Like, here's the keys to the building.
It offers a new perspective.
It sure does.
It does.
Make sure you're not static. You're always moving forward. And you need those new perspectives, those new eyes, new ways to do things.
That's right.
To move things forward.
And I think you bring up another good point, is that you don't have to be a veteran. So
no.
We often say this, and Gabby, being a auxiliary member yourself, that could be our secret weapon of sorts.
Our amplifier.
Amplifiers, you know, especially if you are anywhere, you have a veteran here that you love, and you're in that circle, right, around them, and to be an auxiliary member, that's a lot easier than being a VFW member, and to find all those families around them, and you have just as much a voice and a vote. It all counts.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really do like about the VFW, how inclusive it is, especially our auxiliary program. So speaking as a VFW comrade, our auxiliary program at my post is instrumental to our success. getting out there in the community and reaching all kinds of different people.
Yeah.
And we can do that through the auxiliary.
We can.
Yes.
Absolutely. Great programs that are out there. And, even some of the other extensions, if you will, like I know, the military order of the Cootie, that is an auxiliary itself, as well as the new...
Now the Riders.
The Riders, that's another one that newly established are going through the rules right now. Yeah, on a motorcycle. But hey, how many times
QR code on the back of the bike.
When you
saying,
I don't know if I want to be. I don't know if I want to be on the bike trying to get the cue card. Hold on there.
have the passenger do it.
Right.
Have the passenger do it, guys.
Oh, that's what you meant by
Hands
that.
free, hands free.
On my motorcycle. I'm sorry, there are some people doing it, not me. Okay. But anyway, that's great. I think that's really good that we continue on and people know more about that program. And if you're a student veteran yourself, go online to the VFW and you can find it easily on our site to learn more about the program.
Look in the summer and on the weekly, we always announce it.
That's right. That is right. Okay, so on to the next subject, Ryan.
Speaking of advocacy, it's a perfect segue.
It is a
Talk
perfect
about
segue.
Carrying forward the message on Capitol Hill. Nancy, you had an opportunity today to do just that.
Yeah, sure did. And I tell you what, before you get into that, do you want to set it up because we do have a clip from your actual testimony?
Well, this morning it was my privilege to represent the VFW doing testimony before the DAMA Subcommittee, the Disability Assistance and Memorial Affairs Subcommittee.
Thank you.
And I say it's a privilege because that allows our position to get on the table. We often write statements for record for hearings, and the statement for record is very powerful in and of itself because that's in the permanent record. However, what it can't do is it can't bring it alive, and it can't interface with members, and it cannot answer questions. So by my being there, I was able to do all three. So I take it as a privilege to be able to do it, to be invited to be a witness at our hearings.
Well, it was great. You did a good job. I was there. I took some photos. And so, it's 5 minutes. Why don't we go ahead and play that? And we're still doing all right on time.
I'll look away.
So Brittany, if you wouldn't, because we could talk a little bit after this is done. We'll talk a little bit about the back and forth that happened afterwards, because it was a 15-minute recess that turned into a 30-minute recess when they went to go vote on.
Was it 30? It seemed like it was an hour.
It probably was. I don't know, but it was a long time. In fact, Brittany and Jillian from over in Kansas City were like, "Hey, is this thing coming back on? What's going on?" So
they disappeared for a while.
Yeah, so we're not going to play the recess portion of it. That's for sure. But we do have your 5 minutes of oral testimony, and Brittany, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Good morning, Chairman Luttrell, Ranking Member McGarvey, and members of the subcommittee. On behalf of the men and women, the veterans of foreign wars, the United States, and its auxiliary, thank you for the opportunity to present our views on the legislation before this subcommittee today. My written testimony outlines the VFW's position on all the bills under consideration. This morning, I will highlight three. First, the VFW supports H.R. 1685, the Justice for ALS Veterans Act of 2025. This legislation would extend enhanced dependency and indemnity compensation, or DIC, to surviving spouses of veterans who die from ALS, regardless of how long the veteran lived after diagnosis. Currently, VA pays surviving spouses enhanced DIC only if the veteran is rated totally disabled for at least 8 years prior to death, and if the marriage lasted at least 8 years. While VA presumes ALS to be service-connected and typically assigns a total disability rating at diagnosis, the 8-year disability requirement is fundamentally incompatible with the realities of this disease. ALS is a rapidly progressive and terminal illness with a typical life expectancy of just 2 to 5 years following diagnosis. Consequently, many families can never meet the 8-year disability threshold through no fault of their own. H.R. 1685 would remove this unattainable requirement while preserving the 8-year marriage rule, ensuring surviving spouses receive the full survivor benefits Congress intended. This issue is deeply personal to the VFW. Chris Mulholland, United States Marine Corps retired, VFW member and ALS patient, led our organization's longstanding advocacy to reform ALS survivor benefits, including spearheading the adoption of a related VFW resolution. Major Mulholland spoke powerfully about the toll ALS takes not only on veterans, but also on families who suddenly become full-time caregivers while facing the rapid decline of their veteran, along with related emotional trauma and financial uncertainty. Tragically, Major Mulholland himself lived fewer than 8 years after his ALS diagnosis in 2020, embodying the very injustice the bill seeks to correct. Second, the VFW supports H.R. 5723, the Fraud Reduction and Uncovering Deception in VA Disability Exams Act. Veterans use VA Disability Benefits Questionnaires, or DBQs, which are available on VA's publicly accessible website to document medical evidence supporting disability compensation claims. Because DBQs often provide foundational evidence, their accuracy is essential to the integrity of the VA claims process. Unfortunately, their importance has also made them a target for exploitation. Some bad actors charge veterans for assistance that VA-accredited representatives provide at no charge. Others falsely promise guaranteed outcomes, encourage veterans to avoid VA examinations, or claim access to private providers who will secure higher ratings. In more serious cases, affiliated healthcare providers charge fees to manufacture diagnoses or exaggerate conditions to obtain benefits beyond what the evidence supports. H.R. 5723 would require VA to establish a formal process to identify and report suspected DBQ-related fraud, mandate referrals to appropriate authorities, and implement a recurring audit program to monitor both reported and detected fraud. Together, these reforms would create a systematic and accountable approach to addressing DBQ fraud, one that would protect honest veterans and preserve trust in the disability compensation system. Following the VFW supports H.R. 6698, the Board of Veterans' Appeals Annual Report Transparency Act of 2025. This legislation would require the Board of Veterans' Appeals, or BVA, to identify in its annual report the factors contributing to untimely decisions and remands. Due to the board's workload, veterans can wait up to 2 years and sometimes beyond for a decision, and even longer if they request a hearing. Remands to the agency of original jurisdiction further delay a final decision. In fiscal year 2024 alone, BVA remanded more than 40% of appeals, further extending resolution timelines and creating uncertainty for veterans awaiting their final disposition. Requiring BVA to identify and report the drivers of delay would improve transparency and provide the data needed to strengthen processes and reduce inefficiencies. This transparency would enhance oversight, improve accountability, and build confidence that BVA is handling appeals fairly and consistently. In conclusion, these three bills collectively would ensure that veterans and their survivors are treated with the fairness, integrity, and urgency their service deserves. Chairman Luttrell, Ranking Member McGarvey, thank you for the opportunity to present the VFW's views and look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Springer.
All right. Well, that was great, and I didn't realize how many times that I was walking behind you.
There was a special guest for Nancy's testimony.
I didn't
Rob
know
Couture,
that.
ladies and
Oh, man. Jeez.
I thought you were just in front down in the
Yeah, no, actually, that was for the back and forth that you had with with Chairman Luttrell. But no, I'm sorry. Maybe I need to think that one through a little bit more, but I need to crouch down.
Oh, come on. We're the only ones who noticed. We knew what we were looking for.
You know what's funny is that Jillian over in Kansas City always says, "Oh, I saw Rob." It's like spotted Rob, and that's like the fun little game that they have, right? Spotting Rob. And this one, I was all over the place. I was easy to spot. I was definitely not Where's Waldo. That's for sure.
The room was pretty the room was pretty full.
Room was pretty full. We had a lot of people there from. We had people from TAPS.
Yes.
We had folks. It was the first time that, AMVETS. I had not seen AMVETS in a while at those hearings. And maybe it's just, I noticed it because there was more than one hat in the room. That was an AMVETS cap.
Yeah, he was one of my fellow panelists.
Yeah.
Yeah, the National Commander of
That's right. That's right. And Gold Star Wives.
Gold Star Wives, yes.
That was really good to see that. And of course, Vietnam Veterans of America were there in the end.
Yes.
But great. So tell us a little bit about the back and forth that was happening. What were the questions that came from that, Nancy?
Well, one of the questions involved the ALS bill. And I think as many people know, that is a devastating disease. And VA recognizes the severity and the fast progression of that disease and typically assigns a 100% disability rating as soon as that person's diagnosed. But that person quickly goes on a downward slope. And unfortunately, family members become caregivers, give up their own jobs, give up their lives essentially, and all the while watching their veteran just wither away and going through that emotional toll and that loss of financial insecurity.
Oof.
So I took a couple questions from Mr. Pappas, who is the co-sponsor.
Oh, that's right.
Bill.
Yeah.
And he was just asking about the 8-year rule, why that was unfair to the survivors. Well, unfortunately, typically an ALS patient only lives between 2 and 5 years after diagnosis. It's a very fast-moving disease. It's very devastating. So that person, through nobody's fault, cannot maintain life for 8 years, which is the requirement for his or her survivors to get enhanced dependency and indemnity compensation payment.
Okay.
And for a family that now is suffering this tragic loss, having given up their own jobs, given up their own financial security, not being able to get that little extra, and it's not a princely sum, it's a few $100 extra. To not get that, to me, just seemed patently unfair. And I told Mr. Pappas that. That was one of the questions I took.
Well, that's good. I tell you, I did not know about General Mulholland.
Major,
excuse me.
Mulholland, yeah.
Major Mulholland, excuse me. I did not know about that story until you told it. So it was good that
Ryan
we had
locked me onto
that example.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's so many. Here's the thing.
Well, he was from our VFW
Virginia.
state of Virginia.
Yeah.
And so the resolution to support the Justice for ALS Veterans Act came from VFW state of Virginia, and the advocacy that our comrades did in the state where Nancy and I are both members.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
It's another example of why the resolution process is so important and how veterans who see an injustice like this can have their voices heard.
Yeah.
In his particular case, he was a strong advocate for this topic, obviously, because he's one of the patients. But in his advocacy, he didn't limit it to just an ALS patient. He also spoke passionately about the effects on the survivors. So he was really a catalyst to get a lot of this going. So I was glad that Ryan locked me onto this story. Because even though I was a member of the Department of Virginia during those years, I didn't know that this was going on. I didn't know this was going on.
Wow.
But it is a very powerful story to accompany that legislation.
Yeah, it is. And it's important that we gather these stories.
Yes.
Right, Gabby?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, look how that.
Could be a segue into story bank.
There you go.
Yes, our VFW Voices of Service.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stories in action.
That's important because, look, I think, and it's exactly the reason why you brought them up is because these stories lend to the authenticity of what we're talking about, the credibility of our testimony.
He's a real person. It's not just a dry bill in which you're going through. Sometimes you read the bills and it will direct you to paragraphs in U.S. code, change a comma, delete this, and it's very, very dry. But this brings it alive because Chris was a real person suffering from that awful disease.
Yeah.
And I was encouraged at the end of our panel, Mr. Luttrell, the Chairman Luttrell, came out and he very strongly talked about this particular bill, moving it along and hopefully getting across the line and signed into law.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be, a side note, it's going to be a little sad to see him go.
True.
Yeah. Chairman
true.
Luttrell leaving out.
VFW comrade.
I would agree.
VFW comrade, and
he's moving on after this session's done.
Yeah.
I think he's done a great job
agree.
as chairman of the committee, and asked a lot of difficult questions. Even the dialogue that we have, he challenges people. He challenges their perspective.
Conventional wisdom too.
Yes,
asking common sense questions. I've watched him in other hearings, obviously not just this one. But asking those common sense questions, well, what do you think about this? And not your party line, but what exactly do you think about this, and how can we make this better?
I always think back to that one hearing, and when he said, if you wanted to be accredited, you would have done so.
Yes.
That was such a powerful hearing.
Very powerful.
When he said that, I was like, man.
Oh, he called them right on the carpet.
Absolutely.
There was there's no confusion about where he stood.
No.
Yep.
And it just so clear-eyed, crystal clear, because it was so obvious that the narrative, that was a Claim Shark hearing, the narrative they were selling was not, in fact, being bought by anyone, really.
Right, exactly.
But I also wanted to point out some other things. First of all, Nancy, you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Some of these hearings are really difficult. The subject matter alone is very difficult. And so I thought you did a great job
thank you.
Navigating that. It's never easy to talk about loss and how that impacts families and the benefits that they're due that, they won't mitigate, they won't necessarily mitigate the loss or make it go away, make it hurt less. But there are things that we can do to make everything on the periphery a little bit more manageable. And so well done there. And then Ryan, you brought up something about resolutions and how it's important for our members to understand that when they see injustices or they see things that they want to see improved, the importance of a resolution. Well, as a regular VFW member, when I first joined, I had no idea what a resolution was. I didn't learn about them until I started working as VFW staff. And so perhaps at some point on one of the upcoming podcasts, we can do a segment about exactly that, how veterans, how members can initiate a resolution process through their posts and through their departments for consideration at the National Convention. Because we've spoken about it time and time again about the VFW, our advocacy is driven by our resolutions. And so that is really another major tool in VFW's toolbox to hear from our members about what they truly care about. And so in an effort to increase that participation, it might be worthwhile for us to do a segment on it. So that's something that we can think about for the future.
Brittany, I think you're right, because we've had a number of podcasts where we've tiptoed around the issue. We've talked about you should propose a resolution, you can start a resolution here, but I don't think, first of all, we've never given it its own segment. You're absolutely right. It's always a periphery second, like today saying, hey, in the context of Nancy's hearing, you should write a resolution.
Yes.
But then also, how do you go about it? Because we've seen great ideas that come from members who are just like, look, this isn't right. Somebody should do something about this.
Operations,
oh wait, we're somebody.
Yeah, it allows each individual VFW comrade and his or her post to have a say. Because often people approach me at my post and ask, well, what's the VFW's position on, and just fill in the blank. And when I tell them we don't have a particular position on that, they're somewhat disappointed. And I tell them, if this is important to you, if you think it's important to our post, let's write a resolution. I can give you a blank, and we can go ahead and get this going.
Yeah. Whereas.
That's
now,
how
therefore, be it resolved.
Yeah.
That's how you can make your voice known.
Yeah.
Now, Gabby, you've done a ton since coming back on
Just a little
on our grassroots team. I mean,
just a bit.
I think you have some thoughts on this as well.
I do. Shocker.
Gabby's got thoughts.
We really teed this one up. Okay.
Actually, last week, Nancy, we were talking about this, and I think that one great, asset we have is our National Legislative Committee. And that is the national legislative person for every department.
Yeah.
They need to be fully aware of how this process works. So my plan, it is not fully fleshed out and living yet.
But now it's going on the record. So this
it is on the record.
Right. Now it's going out.
Forever.
Now there's no turning back now.
Create a whole packet that in very easy language explains how to do this, why you want to do it, what the process is, and to train up our National Legislative Committee members so that they can be a point of contact for anybody in any department, that they can go right to our committee member. The committee member knows what the process is, can give that VFW member a packet that says, this is what you need to follow. And then we've got more resolutions, we've got more insight on issues, and we can fix more problems.
And now a little bit of inside baseball on that too, as we're talking about this, the Commander-in-Chief puts forward resolutions every year as well. And as I've seen it go both ways, where sometimes at convention, people they'll feel a little stifled. They'll come in with an idea and be like, well, we have a Commander-in-Chief's resolution that addresses this. To be able to kind of walk and chew gum at the same time, be like, these are where the Commander-in-Chief is going. If you don't see something covered in there, here's how you do it. Run through that brick wall, full speed ahead, or what did the Commander-in-Chief miss?
Well, I think, go ahead, Brittany, before we move on.
We're an organization of almost 101.4 million between VFW and auxiliary. We are such a tiny sampling of stakeholders in the VFW. And I mean, there's enormous power within the VFW.
That's right.
Our membership, our auxiliary, my goodness, I can't. the impact we could have if we just heard from more of our people, more of our stakeholders.
That's a great point, Brittany, because as we were talking earlier, from the numbers that came back from the action alerts, and we're like 15,000. That's amazing. More than 15,000. That's huge compared to the numbers that are in our organization. That's just.
Right. It's a drop. It's small. Such a tiny.
That's nothing.
Oh, nice.
You like that?
I like what you did there.
Yeah. But we do need to move on as we are at close to the hour mark, and we have other things to talk about. So, Ryan, what's next?
All right. Last that I had on the list before the good of the order is our commander-in-chief was able to join our commander-in-chief to visit service members overseas. This is something that we do every year, several times a year, with our key leaders. And the reason behind it is multifaceted. First of all, we're the veterans of foreign wars. Our common bond is that we served overseas in a conflict. And our responsibility as an organization that advocates for veterans of foreign wars is to understand what we're asking young Americans to do overseas today.
Right.
It seems pretty straightforward. But beyond that, there are more than just our service members overseas. There are allies or veterans of allied countries that we can build relationships with to help open doors, like we saw in Vietnam, normalizing relations with a former adversary that's now turned into a strategic partner.
Right.
Then there are comrades in the VFW, people who've chosen to organize overseas in support of service members in places like Korea, Japan, Germany, Italy. I like the Vicenza, Italy post because it was founded by Gulf War veterans after they came back from Operation Desert Storm. They were still on active duty. They were still serving in uniform.
Wow.
And decided to stand up a VFW post to help meet their needs, and that post still goes strong today. So we have comrades around the world who are supporting our military mission overseas and supporting the veteran community. And then identifying policy issues, gaps in programs and services that we can then advocate for stateside. A very good example of that is the VA's foreign medical program. A couple of years ago, nobody was talking about this, but there were VFW members who started to raise the alarm and basically saying, look, there are fundamental problems with this program. And I remember on one overseas visit meeting with a health clinic that did VA comp and pen exams, that did TRICARE overseas for service members and military families, and wanted to play in the VA foreign medical program, but there was no way for them to do it because it was unstructured. That kind of reignited a spark that was already going, I guess, messing up my analogies here.
Yeah.
But it really captured why we would need to advocate for that, because also our service members overseas, our veterans who are overseas, they're not from one congressional district. And so if we're not speaking up for them, who is?
That's right.
So that's all to set the scene for what we did with the Commander-in-Chief. So the Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, she started in Germany at their midwinter conference with comrades. First of all, to do the business of the VFW, the midwinter business of the VFW, and to hear from VFW members in Germany. From there, we met up to visit Camp Kosovo in Poland. And we were there about a little bit more than 2 years ago, and to see the progress of U.S. Army Garrison Poland that's still standing up to provide support to Americans who are serving in Poland. From there, after our visit at Camp Kosovo, we went to Kosovo. Now, interesting about Kosovo is the United States has had troops deployed there for 26 years.
That's right.
In our archive, I can't see where the VFW has ever visited that area of operations.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
Wow.
Huh. Well, I'll tell you
Surprising.
that as a Kosovo veteran, I was there 25 years ago.
Okay.
Wow.
So actually it would have been, I was exactly, maybe more like 26 years ago, because I got there in the fall of 2000.
Okay.
So there we go. So more than 25 years ago, let's just say that. But nevertheless, I was there. I don't remember the VFW coming through. That's for sure. So I was pretty proud that you guys came through. Went through.
And honestly, I don't think we did. You know, Rob, you and I have looked through our magazines.
That's right.
Our archives pretty thoroughly. And look, this mission has been very important for the United States, but more importantly for the people of Kosovo.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it remains important. The reason that Carol wanted to go to Kosovo is last year when we visited SHAPE, which is Strategic Headquarters for the Allied Powers Europe. It's under NATO. We received a limited briefing on the NATO posture and the American posture in the region. And Kosovo caught Carol's eye, and she started to ask some questions about it. Now, quick aside, I think it's because she's from Iowa and they have a partner. Their National Guard has a partnership.
There we
with
go.
Kosovo.
Yeah.
But it caught her eye, and she started asking some pointed questions about our operations in Kosovo. And basically, what we were told at SHAPE is it's critical to security in Europe because if we were to leave and if NATO were to leave, it's back to a hot conflict. That certainly piqued her interest. It piqued my interest as well. But wow, okay, so we still have American service members here, deploying here. And we need to understand the nature of their service, and is there a way that the VFW can further support their work? Now, they continue to receive the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal. Which means they are technically veterans of foreign wars.
So, do they not get the Kosovo campaign medal anymore?
They do not. That was sunset.
Okay.
But in favor of the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal.
Yeah, that was initially awarded, was the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, as a continuation of the other wars in the Balkans, such as Bosnia and Kosovo peacekeeping mission. So that was then transferred to the Kosovo campaign medal, which you had one phase, which was the air campaign, and then afterwards you had the other kind of like stabilization campaign. So I got the latter medal for that, but it was hot when I was there for sure.
And what we learned, so we visited Camp Bondsteel, visited with service members who are deployed, sat down for a command team briefing, and really understanding the scope of the mission. So first of all, today it's largely a National Guard rotation. So right now it's the Louisiana National Guard who's serving there, and they'll be replaced here in just a few weeks. But what's fascinating about it, so Camp Bondsteel is pretty well developed, right? It's a logistics support area. It's been there for a quarter of a century at this point. And there are a lot of amenities that allow for a pretty good quality of life for a deployment. The challenge becomes that there are still infantry units who are out around the country doing patrols.
Yep.
And there are times that they're challenged. Serbia will, push the envelope. And the work that they're doing is still critical to the security of Kosovo.
Right.
And there are places that are a little bit more austere, where now the VFW is looking at ways, are there ways that we can better support our deployed service members, our deployed members of the National Guard who are in Kosovo? Is it simple things like connectivity back home for those who are on Camp Bondsteel? We had a very good conversation with their MWR director about, gaming.
Yeah.
We have our combat tested gaming who they were guests on this podcast, but talked about, that linkage back home with family members, especially for members of the Guard.
Right.
But also even internet access for people who were stationed on some of those outlying, I'm going to say FOBs for lack of a better term.
Well, I mean, like those outposts. Camp Monteith was another one that was a little bit larger and more built up than Camp Bondsteel, but they had little. I remember going out on patrol, and they would be like in what you would call like the rectory of a church there. It's not called that because it's Orthodox Christian, so Eastern Orthodox, so it's a little bit different. But they had it. The infantry guys were just bunked out there, and it was a lot of it was very much like patrolling some of the streets in Afghanistan. If you were more in the city, because it's obviously a little bit more developed, but orphanages and all those different things, bombed out buildings, and it was once the location for, I think, the Winter Olympics. One of the locations, because they had it in Sarajevo, remember, a long time ago.
Sarajevo.
So, so a NATO mission, our partners are out there, NATO partners, very much part of it. And it's weird because when I saw the pictures, I was like, oh my goodness, I worked out of that same building that you guys took the
Not the
picture
public affairs office, was it?
It was.
It's in the same place?
It's the same place.
Wow.
Oh
It may have
my
shifted,
God.
but those buildings are all the same.
Wow.
And that's where I worked out of. And there was like a motor pool that was behind it.
Yep.
Wow.
And shout out to the public affairs unit. They're actually from the Delaware National Guard, who hosted us and helped us visit on Camp Bonsteel. Great support from Delaware National Guard. But after the visit with Camp Bonsteel, the next day we had engagements with our Kosovar partners. So we started the day at the U.S. Embassy. Again, just a conversation with the defense attaché about some of the meetings that we had arranged for later in the day. Meeting with the head of the Kosovo Security Forces, their Minister of Defense. Meeting with the Kosovo War Veterans Organization.
Oh.
And then the Friends of USA organization, which might sound a little bit familiar to you from some of our work in Vietnam.
Yeah, for sure it does. Except I think the Kosovar contingent probably a little bit,
Yeah.
we weren't at war with Kosovo.
No. And the Friends of USA Kosovo organization was really fascinating because it reminded me a little bit of like our Voice of Democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So what the person does who heads it is basically school programs about patriotism and what the United States did to provide for Kosovo's security. They do like flag raisings at certain monuments. One is a Bill Clinton monument because Bill Clinton was the one who authorized the airstrikes.
Yeah.
They also have ones for Senator Bob Dole.
Okay.
So it's very interesting. But part of his mission is to remind children in Kosovo, school children in Kosovo, about what they've been afforded as a result of U.S. intervention and NATO intervention.
Wow.
Because you just said, like when you were there, you could tell it was a bit war torn.
Oh yeah, I mean those 5-year-old orphans that were there are now 30.
And the country, because of the security that the United States and NATO helps provide and the capacity building that we're doing with the Kosovo security forces, that's allowed that society to grow and thrive.
Yeah.
It was kind of a joke from our driver. He was basically saying that the population of Kosovo triples in the summer just from tourism, and that their airport is just churning with people coming in for tourism. And it was really just fascinating how grateful they are. But then as the Kosovo security forces are developing their capacity, they're also paying it forward and assisting with other allied and NATO missions. For example, on an expeditionary level, they sent a small unit to accompany rotational forces in Kuwait to support missions in the Middle East. And then beyond that, supported training for Ukrainian infantry in understanding modern battlefield tactics, something that the Kosovo security force is very familiar with and that Ukraine can use. And I thought that one was really profound. Because having the discussion with their leadership from the Kosovo security forces, Ukraine doesn't acknowledge Kosovo as a country.
Yeah.
However, Kosovo is still paying it forward.
Yeah.
To provide for Ukraine's security.
It is interesting because when I was there, we had what was called the Polish-Ukrainian Battalion, and they were doing peacekeeping there in the country. Now, keep in mind that at that time, I don't know if Poland was part of NATO. I don't think so. And Ukraine, of course not. But they were a partner nation there that were doing patrols and holding space. And so it's so interesting to hear that they paid it back, going over and helping out the Ukrainians.
They're very proud of the capacity building
Cool.
that they're able to do. And I know that's kind of a wonky term, like
Sure.
you hear it in military parlance. Oh, we're building capacity, but no, the ability for Kosovo to secure its own borders, but then also participate in the international community. For the security of Europe, really.
Right.
But
So you weren't there on vacation, that's for sure.
not at all. This was, but then a meeting with their veterans organization. Again, the common threads of service and the common challenges too. Provided a briefing out to the embassy on how that meeting went, and I think it's going to encourage the embassy to reach out to their organization as well. I know no one on this panel is going to be surprised, but they have similar challenges on access to mental health care. Maintaining benefits that they received from the war for their liberation, but now a lot of time has passed. So is the political appetite there to maintain those benefits?
Wow,
And so
look at that.
having
Sounds
these
familiar,
kinds of
doesn't it?
conversations, it's like, wow.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But a lot of strong relationship building in Kosovo. And it was also interesting to see with Poland and Kosovo. There are some similarities, and you brought it up, the Poland-Ukraine brigade.
Yeah.
And Poland is a newer player in NATO. But the gratitude that Poland and Kosovo have for the security partnerships. In Poland, there's a lot of discussion about Polish-provided infrastructure and Polish-provided logistical support. For example, when we were there 2 years ago, the Chow Hall was a KBR-10. It's now Polish-provided infrastructure and Polish-provided logistical support. They revamped a building. The Polish government basically provides the meals.
Yeah. At the main camp.
Yes, at Camp Kosovo, at no expense to the U.S. taxpayer.
Wow, look at that.
So, and it's fascinating to see, because we talk about the ideals, and it's even in the charter of the VFW about extending institutions of freedom. But to see it happen in real time in places like Poland, in places like Kosovo, we also see it in Korea, in Japan, other places where, the U.S. presence and our allied presence keeps bad things at bay and allows their society to grow and thrive, and it's refreshing.
Yeah.
And just eager to find ways to support the service members who are asked to go on that important but often underspoken mission.
Yeah, and often forgotten about. I mean, shoot.
I was being nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say that.
You're flat on right. It's forgotten about.
Yeah, I would think, I maybe wouldn't be wrong, but I was like, hey, I don't know how many people at the Pentagon still remember we have folks that are over in Poland, But here's the thing, and maybe that's not necessarily fair. But here's the thing: when you have folks out there in Poland, and we had advocated for the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal for those that are on the eastern flank, and I still think they're worthy of that. They're still living. Those that are not at Camp K are living in austere environments out there.
Yes,
and that's crazy to me.
So, U.S. Army garrison Poland, though it's headquartered at Camp Kosovo, it's responsible for 12 outlying sites. In the briefing we got, they talked about the tyranny of distance, and that for the garrison to serve those sites, that means some of the more outlying installations don't have the typical programs and services that we would associate with a garrison. When you talk about recognition, that's still paramount. Because again, we're talking about National Guard units that are rotating through to support this mission. And so Kosovo, you have that recognition.
Yeah.
And so anyone who deploys to Kosovo, yes, you get the Armed Forces Expedition. You receive the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal. And it's a recognition, okay, you came here, you did an important mission. Kosovo, they're still kind of, okay, you're a National Guard unit,
Poland.
You're activated. Poland, yes, thank you. Poland, you're activated, you're deployed, but that's it. And when you come home, you come home. A couple quick ones for Poland specifically. Our message is reaching service members overseas. The first thing that we did at Camp Kosovo was really speak to a group of soldiers who were there voluntarily about what the VFW did, why we were there. And it was refreshing to hear not one, but 2 shout outs for BDD representatives that soldiers had worked with.
Look at
Mike
that.
McPherson at Fort Bliss and Cody Mangold right down the street here.
All right,
Fort
Cody.
Belvoir.
That's awesome.
Again, they're National Guard, so many of them have filed benefit claims before.
Yeah,
they
sure.
understand what we do, and we're grateful for that support. So we're talking with NVS about, okay, how do we reach into Poland when we can't physically have someone there?
Yeah.
But what resources can we send forward to these service members so that they can use a high quality accredited benefit?
Yeah.
But the other one was a question that we received about maintaining benefits. And that one was a bit more discouraging because it was coming from a senior NCO in Poland who was concerned about whether benefits were potentially under attack or going to be cut. That led to a frank but positive discussion, talking about what we're doing to make sure that doesn't happen. But it was a sobering moment because you're thinking, okay, here we are, we're visiting Americans who are stationed overseas. They are on, for lack of a better term, the front line, right? We've asked them to deploy. We've asked them to go forward and do the mission. And they're worried about whether America is going to honor their contract.
Jeez.
That's something that I hope our listeners take to heart about why we have these pins, why we talk about this. It's not abstract. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to stop it.
Because that's a national security issue.
Bingo.
Because
Sure is.
That's retention, that's recruitment, that's passing information along to the next generation.
It's all volunteer force.
It's all volunteer force.
Yeah.
Woof. Well, I'm glad that you went there. I'm glad that you're back, and I'm glad that you got that experience, Ryan. It was, I'm sure, a little bit less of a muddy boot assignment for you than it was for me, but you have to carry around.
Frankly, it was. And look, we were supposed to proceed on to visit with sailors in Bahrain, but the security situation dictated that couldn't happen now. Look, if things settle down in the Middle East, perhaps there's an opportunity for Carol to visit our folks who are serving downrange in the Middle East. But right now, that wasn't in the cards.
Okay.
So,
well, hey, at least you tried. That's a good thing.
Hey.
So maybe
we opened the door.
We did.
Now we need to step through the door.
Well, I mean, Kosovo is a good step. I think
it was
to get out there to where our folks are deployed. I mean, you did, like you said, it's been 2 years since we've been to Poland. So that's 2 right there. Good job.
These are important for us to understand what's happening in the force and to even see how it changes.
Yeah.
And I think we took a lot back. And I think I know that there are things that we're going to advocate for across the street.
Yeah.
That Joy is going to be able to advocate for. But then there are things that the VFW can do to fill in some of those gaps on connectivity back home, but also some services where there are still gaps for our service members who are deployed.
Good. Well, good. Well, look, we are out of time, and we need to get to the good of the order. So what do you say? Who are we going to start with? Brittany, do you want to start?
I'll go first.
I know you're itching to get to your subject.
Oh, Rob, I also see what you did there.
A burning
So,
question.
public service announcement.
Right.
Contrary to the minimum age that one is allowed to get the shingles vaccine, you can indeed get shingles when you are younger than 50, even a lot younger than 50.
Tell, right?
And
Do tell.
So my New Year started not, with like sunshine and rainbows. It started with shingles. And so that's why I was not in the last podcast. It was pretty rough. And I highly recommend that if you are of age, that you go get your freaking shingles vaccine.
Yes.
Because
Second.
that was
Third.
probably, third. See, I'm in, unfortunately,
I had
very good
shingles in
company.
She had shingles in May? Oh man, have you had shingles?
No, and I have both my shots. I'm obviously
Yes.
over 50s. I'm good.
Okay, I need to get mine.
So 3/5 of our panel got it before
Yeah.
the age you can get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
crazy.
So
And it was
that's my
not
public
it was
service
not comfortable
announcement.
for you, was it, Brittany?
No, it sure wasn't. It's let's see, tomorrow will be 4 weeks officially, and I still am not sleeping well at night because I just can't stop itching. So bringing it back to your initial comment.
I'm
itching
so
to
sorry,
give
Brittany.
My public service announcement.
I'm so
Yes.
sorry about that. Have you had any scarring from it?
No, thankfully, but it's
Okay.
I could see how people would
Yeah.
get it because it was a very difficult situation to maintain. So highly recommend that if you're of age, you go get that vaccine because this is not an illness that you want.
Wow. Okay. Wow. And I didn't.
Back to you all.
Gabby. Well, thanks for the rosy outlook on things there.
Yeah,
but-
Rosie.
Good information.
I do what I can, Rob.
Brittany, it's good information.
It is. It's good. All right. So Nancy, since you just spoke up, what is your
Particular order.
good? Yeah, no particular order at all. What's your good of the order?
Well, my good of the order is to reinforce your good of the order, Brittany, and get your shingles shots.
Oh, that's cheap. How are you gonna?
I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
shingle shots.
Okay.
And don't worry, you're not going to get sick. You're not going to get laid out.
Yeah.
Because people have told me, especially the second shot, because you take them in a series of 2, that the second one is worse than a COVID shot. It's going to lay you out. And not true. Everybody's body chemistry is different.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily your fate.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the shots. 'Cause I've known other people who have had shingles, and it is brutal.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess
Brutal.
around.
Well, I mean, when the average age of a VFW member is 65, I mean, I think so. That's what it was. I found out a while ago. Maybe that's 5 years old data. But anyway, hopefully it's getting younger. But nevertheless, I mean, I would have never thought until Ryan and then,
You don't think about that. It's always somebody
and
else.
now Brittany, and now
Yeah.
finding out Gabby had it too in May.
But if you had chicken pox
Yeah.
at any time, that virus is in you. And all
Yeah.
it needs is to be
Stressed out.
activated.
Right.
Stressed out, and your immune system just maybe sick a few times. Like, so I've just been sick from daycare illnesses since September. And so that's add a little bit of stress on top of that.
Yeah.
That's the potent mix.
So Brittany suggested that everybody get a single shot. We have Nancy who seconds. The motion carries.
we have
go get your
That wasn't a good enough good of the order. I'll do another one, but come back.
Look at that. Okay. Ryan, what do you have?
All right. All this discussion of shingles.
Oh man. Okay.
Starting itching.
No.
Sorry, Ryan.
So our long national nightmare is over, and the New England Patriots are back in the Super Bowl.
Oh, there we go. Yay! Long nightmare.
Sunday.
Yeah.
But no, all of that is to segue to our VFW Department of Massachusetts people have enjoyed a pretty strong relationship with the Patriots, and kind of a shout out to the ownership group. Robert Kraft. A few years ago, they commissioned the POWMIA seat at Gillette Stadium.
Very cool.
And
right?
and the VFW played a strong role in that. So as a born and raised New Englander, excited for the game here this weekend.
Absolutely.
And, that's really it. But the little bit of VFW lore that goes along with it.
Well, also, and while you brought up the Department of Massachusetts, I did want to give a shout out to Bill LeBeau.
Oh, yeah.
And his new wife, Stephanie Jones, who happens to be the District 12 commander over there, and Bill is the state adjutant. Friends of ours, and, they just got married. So I don't know where they got married. I think it was like Aruba or something like that.
I met him at senior vice training.
Yeah, he's a good dude. And she's great, too. So it's good to see, look at that, getting married within the... We were talking about husband and wives before that we got on here. Like, hey, when you find a husband, well, love can happen in the VFW, that's for sure.
No one on this panel knows anything about that.
Right? Okay, so with that, going over to you, Gabby. We had talked about this earlier about like what it is, and I promise you all that I had an update. And we're not going to go forth and long in this, I promise. But we had an update. I was going to give we're already forth and long. Speaking of football, but I had an update for you about the new U.S. Postal Service system, and that was. It's no longer, the rules have changed where if before you put mail into the mailbox and that's when it was postmarked. Now, what we had received was that once it got to the processing station. So I reached out, as I promised. I reached out to United States Postal Service and I asked them these questions. How does this affect veterans? We're talking about mail-in or absentee ballots. This is your VA claims. These are bills. This is rent. Anything that you put in there. And also how does it affect those people living overseas? Response is, the key takeaway, this is coming from the director of consumer advocacy at the headquarters there. The real takeaway for any customer stateside or anyone mailing from an APO, FPO address is if they need a postmark to show the date they turn their letter over to the post office, they can ask for that at the retail window at any post office. And I was like, okay, so there is a solution. And Gabby was like,
kinda.
Yeah,
all right.
Not really.
But not really.
But not really. I believe that the United States postal system is something that every taxpayer pays into. And when I am not young, and for my whole life, when I've needed a postmark, regardless of whatever else is going on in my life, because I spent my 20s working in restaurants and bartenders. I would work from sometimes 8 a.m. in the morning to 1 a.m. in the morning. How am I going to get to the post office and get to that window if I'm at work those hours?
This is a great
and
point.
I can't afford to take off because I have to pay bills. So now my vote doesn't count?
Yep.
Nah.
Yep. So now that's from that perspective,
cool.
but we take it one step further with veterans. And one of the things you said, because I was like, oh, well, they could still go. And you're like, so this is like ableist. And I was like, what are you talking about? And so then we're going back and forth. But that's, I've had a little bit of time to sit and think about it. And that's absolutely correct, especially when you're talking about those that work that are still working or able to work, or let's say that we've had veterans on the podcast before who don't leave their house and they can't. So, hey, post office, appreciate the answer. Love the conversation. You were very cordial with me on the phone, but you got to consider some of these folks, that are out there that our taxpayer dollars go for that, and they are not able to go to their local office and get that stamp, so to speak. Yeah. Which made me wonder, was that something that the post person, post deliver, your courier rather, was doing? Like, okay, they put the flag down, they pull out your mail, stamp it, and stick it in a bag. I don't know, but
I don't know either. But what I think, and this is based on nothing but my brain.
Yeah,
I'll be clear. I think that when they would come take the mail out of your mailbox, when they go back to the post office, all of that mail gets dumped somewhere and they stamp it that night.
They do it.
That's when they were doing it, yes.
Yeah.
That's when they were canceling your stamp. And that's the postmark. Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't at the mailbox, it was at the post office.
It was at the local post
local
office,
post
not
office.
the regional processing office.
Before it hit midnight.
All right.
One down the street from you.
Okay.
Before midnight.
Before midnight, so it has that stamp with the date so that you are on time.
And look, I know some of this is also driven by, well, we want to move toward electronic transactions and things like that, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
And again, a shameless plug for our accredited reps. That's why working with an accredited rep, even if you don't have access to those electronic tools, our accredited reps do and can take care of that transaction for you. But then that becomes, well, you're talking about, well, I need to have access to high-speed internet. I need to have the equipment to do it. I need to have a smartphone. I need to have a cell phone plan. And there are then costs associated with that as well. So as we run into that from time to time with VA when talking about electronic transactions, that, look, sometimes it's not as feasible as us urbanites would like to think that it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially compounding it in the rural areas.
Yeah, that's even more so. And shoot, we got to go. But
I know the sirens outside.
Yeah, I know sirens. The sirens. But you're absolutely right. I mean, that goes to it is easy for us in Washington D.C. to and those that live in the surrounding area or in a larger metropolitan area to just well, it's so easy. You could just go right in.
Right.
That's not the case.
Right.
And that's not the history of the post office either,
Yeah.
right? The history is those postmen made it through the snow and the hurricanes and the blizzards. But to this day, FedEx doesn't go to every address.
Yeah.
UPS doesn't go to every address.
Yeah.
When people need to get their veterans need their medication and the FedEx can't get to their house, it goes to the post office.
Yeah.
Because it is a function for the people. And it should remain that way.
Well-
that is what veterans are serving for the people.
Well, I love that. Great. I will tell you that in this icebox over the last week, I didn't get my mail for like 3 days. So
We
things
started
have
getting
changed.
ours.
Things
I was very
have
impressed when I started seeing boxes in our hallway.
Well, I know Amazon was delivering. I guess it takes a little bit of this, right?
They got the drones.
Yeah, they got the drones to deliver. Okay, look, I think that's it. Thank you all for this. It's been a great panel, and we did it again. We went for a long one, but a bunch of great conversations
We had
and
a
great
lot.
topics. I mean, it's been a little while. I mean, like I said, we were
lot's
iced over.
happened
A
in 2
lot
weeks.
has happened. And we have the WASH conference coming on, the Washington conference. So
WashCon 26.
yeah, WashCon 26, if you will. So, and our Commander-in-Chief, Carol Whitmore, will be testifying. It's going to be great. So, more to come, more to follow. And that's it. Thanks all for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
you.
And we want to thank you out there, our viewers, our listeners. Just don't forget to like, subscribe, mash that button, follow us on social media, YouTube, whatever that may be, or you can subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Until then, I'm Rob Couture, reminding you that when it comes to the VFW, we are still serving. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Still Serving, the VFW podcast. To get the latest news and information from the veterans of foreign wars, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to us on social media at VFW HQ, on Facebook at VFW Fans, or visit our website at vfw.org.